everyone. Welcome to Get to Know Her. I am your host, Monica Graves, coming at you live from the Glam Jewels studio in Burlington, Ontario. Before we start anything today, I just want to send out lots of love, lots of healing, lots of all the good stuff, and let's all just make a commitment to keep focusing on world peace. That's really what we need right now. And, by no means am I here making a big political statement, but I did want to encourage you. I was actually very inspired by my friend Donna from She's Got Legs, the CEO of She's Got Legs this morning. She did a beautiful live video talking about all of the places you can go online to donate. The Canadian government is matching any donations made through the Canadian Cross to the Ukraine. And there's UNICEF is also running a program. So please go online, make sure you know about those things, and let's show our support. And thank you all for being such heart-centered, beautiful people and viewers. And let's just keep as much positivity and goodness flowing as we possibly can right now, because that's what the world needs. So, ladies and gentlemen, I am really, really excited to introduce our guest today. She is incredible. I only met her a week ago on the phone and had to have her on right away. She's just doing such amazing things for planet Earth. And I'm going to introduce her in just a moment, but I did want to show you today. I actually decided to wear one of my, I don't want to say vintage. It's only a few years old, but this top from Brenda Bedome. I'm going to move my hair. I love this top because it's like off the shoulder, so I can do like that fun 80s look with it. And it's nice and long and goes great with glam jewels, of course. And this is a really fun way to kind of bring in color when it's still cold outside, because hey, it's March the 1st. We want to get into more of a spring vibe, but if you're still wearing your black, you can always pop like a little bit of color with your undergarments or your jewels, whatever you like. So if you want to go and check out Brenda's spring collection, it's online now, and you will go to brendabedome.com, use the coupon code GETTOKNOWHER for 22% off of your order in 2022. And then, of course, head on over to glamjewels.com to find accessories to go with your outfit. And you know what? You can email me anytime if you have an outfit from Brenda and you're not sure how to accessorize. Maybe you've already got some jewels at home that you want to wear with your new clothes. Just send me a little message. I'd be happy to assist you with that. So let's get started, shall we? I am ready to introduce our guest. I want you to meet Brie Smalldon today. Brie has worked with the environmental sciences since 2007. She attended Niagara College and completed her environmental technician diploma. After completing her diploma, she got her graduate certificate as a restoration ecologist in the Ecosystems Restoration Program. Today, Brie is in the final stages of getting her Master of Science in Environmental Practices degree. Before the pandemic, Brie worked for Friends of Fort Erie's Creeks, where she was given many opportunities to use all of her knowledge and get hands-on experience in the field. She worked her way up to coordinator and led a 3-year restoration project at a local conservation area. She has performed water sampling on all of the local creeks, drains, and on Lake Erie for the entirety of her time there. She taught students throughout the summer months, as well as being a guest educator at local schools. Most recently, Brie has started up her own nonprofit organization with a former colleague called Sustainable Fort Erie. Their vision is to create a more sustainable community and recruit local citizens to contribute. They started in January of 2021, gathering members, collaborating with other groups, and developing future plans. Most recently, Brie has self-published her first book, a children's book called It's Spring, It's Spring. Her book invites children to explore nature and discover all of the important species that are crucial to our ecosystem. Let's get lost in nature with Brie right now. I am ready to bring her on. Here we go. Hi, Brie.
Hi.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good, good. There's so much to talk about. I'm really excited. Like we could go on for hours here. And I also wanted to share with you that I really enjoyed our conversation we had on the phone last week because I wanted the audience to know we were introduced by Paul Robinson, who a lot of people know his name because he's the gentleman that we're helping with our Three Little Wishes program this year. And a lot of the viewers helped to contribute to Paul. And Paul introduced me to you. I was on the phone with him last week just doing a check-in, and he told me all about you. And I said, oh my gosh, I want Brie on like right away because you're doing so many things. It's amazing. So I have to ask you, Brie, the first question that I ask all of my guests when they come on, and that is, what did little Brie want to be when she grew up?
I wanted to be a ballet dancer.
That's great.
Yeah, I wanted to be a ballerina.
And how did that did you actually pursue it? Did you go to lessons or?
I did ballet for 25 years, I guess, about. Wow. Yeah, I mean, even just recently I took like an adult class just for fun, but it was never really a career move.
Right.
Yeah, but that was my dream when I was little.
Oh, that's quite the passion if you've done it for 25 years. Amazing.
I really enjoyed it. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's so great. So what kind of got you into caring about the environment? Was that something that happened when you were a little kid as well, or did that come later in your life?
Nature, yes. Oddly, not the sciences as much. I always liked ecology, but I definitely didn't think that sciences was going to be my field of choice. But yes, nature has been a huge part of my life always. I grew up outside doing. We have a cottage up north, fishing, all that fun stuff. So it's definitely been a main part of my life. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. So tell us a little bit, if you don't mind, about your upbringing. So you grew up in a small town, correct?
Yeah, small town, 5,000 people. It's Hudson, Quebec, so just outside of Montreal.
Wow. Yeah. Okay.
Nice. It's a beautiful town. Beautiful little town.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Wow. So from there, how did you sort of get to where you are now? Because now you're over in Fort Erie, right? Are you there? Is that where you're living right now, in Fort Erie?
Yep, Fort Erie. So for the Niagara region.
Yeah.
This is where my family is from. So my parents grew up out here, and when they moved out here, I kind of followed behind not long after, because I wanted to go back to school. So because I was originally I was doing art. I was studying art, and that wasn't. I thought to myself, well, that's not going to get me. I had dreams of being like this world famous artist, right? And then I traveled around a bit, and then I thought, okay, I need to go back to school and I need to figure something out, because at that point I was getting up to my later 20s, and I thought it was time to, figure something out.
Well, but good for you for doing something else right away. A little bit of self-exploration and all of that. Where did you travel to in those?
I shouldn't say traveled in that, like I wasn't taking vacations, and I moved to BC for a little bit, and then I was actually back out here for a bit, and then back to Quebec, and then back to BC. So I was kind of all over the place for a few years.
Yeah.
So not settled at all at that point.
Yeah, that's okay. That's what your 20s are for.
Right? Yep, I definitely enjoyed them.
That's amazing. I love that. So I wanted to touch on this, Brie, just because I found it really fascinating. We talked about it a little bit offline. You had shared with me that you were adopted.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, and that you're both moms are in the scene today.
They are, yes, and they're both very, very. They're like my biggest fans. They're always cheering me on, and they're both very supportive. So
That's great. Well, I was hoping we could talk a little bit about that only because that's not always the story for a lot of kids who are adopted, right? Like this is really cool that you've got a relationship with both of them and they're both involved in your life. So I'm just curious to know, like, how did that sort of happen? Was it always kind of like an open topic of conversation where your adopted mom said, hey, anytime if you want to reach out, or how did it all sort of come to fruition?
Yeah, I mean, I knew I was adopted before I could even really understand what it was, right? My parents never kept it from me. I know some people don't find out till they're like 13 or whatever. No, I always knew. I guess it was when I was a teenager, I really started to kind of wonder more about my background, my nationality, or just certain things about myself that were maybe more genetic than environmental, right? And so I did think about it for a long time, and then internet was just starting to come out when I was in my later teens, and so I was able to do the research, and I think the site was called adoption.com, where people just kind of list their known name at birth or whatever, and I was able to find it was actually, so my birth mother's brother, so uncle was the one who had originally put the posting up, and I think that's what initially kind of got the connection started, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. Well, so that's what. So that would have been like mid 90s, I guess.
End of 90s. I think it was like right around like 98, 99.
Yeah.
I think So
right. Wow. Yeah, that was right at the beginning of the internet.
Yeah, you still have to listen to it. Key connection.
Yeah.
Those days. Yep.
Yeah. Amazing. And so then what happened from there? Did you actually go and meet your birth mom? Like, was she close by, or?
No, she actually came out to Hudson. So we visited there, and then I went out to BC, where she was, Vancouver Island. That's how I ended up moving out there, because of course anytime you go to BC to visit, you end up living there. You fall in love with it, right? So it's for sure, it's
amazing.
Yeah, so, and that encouraged me to kind of go out a little bit more on my own. I was just starting to kind of grow up, right? So it me being that far away from my parents, I think kind of gave me a little bit more of that independence. And growing up in a small town too, everybody knew everybody, right? So it was a very kind of sheltered upbringing in that small town of, so it really opened my eyes, I think, to the world.
Yeah.
And even though I lived in a small town out there too, but it's still a totally different world for me, right? So
right. Oh, I love that. I think that's so brave, like the whole idea of you, like you say, having this sheltered life and then packing up your bags and taking an adventure, and then say, you know what, I'm going to try living out there and have that experience. And like I say, I mean, I think those are the experiences that bring you so beautifully into adulthood and independence and being able to trust yourself. That's not always something you learn at school. So good for you for just doing that. It's great.
Yeah, I was scared. I definitely was scared, but I was
Imagine.
also very excited.
Yeah,
So,
so great. Yeah, awesome. So then, when you did decide to go to college, how did why that course? Like, what was it that was drawing you to that?
I was
So-
actually looking at horticulture. So
Oh,
I've
okay.
always loved gardening. I've been a big gardener my whole life. And
Yeah.
so I was looking at the horticulture program, and then just under it, there was the environmental technician program. And I was like, oh. And then, of course, I'm reading all the descriptions of the courses and, different careers. And I was like, oh, no, no, this is what I need to take. So that, it wasn't my original plan. I wanted to do horticulture until I saw that program. And then I was like, no, no, this is more me.
Can you tell us a little bit about what an environmental technician is?
So an environmental technician, very broad.
Yeah.
We do water quality, air quality. We sample, but we can also do the analysis of our samples that we get out in the field. It's biology, chemistry. It's just a combination of anything environmentally related. You really have to have a base knowledge of all of it. So, and it's good that way. It opens up a lot of doors for you, and it does come time to, finding a career. So,
Right. That's
yeah.
great. So you started with that, Brie, and then your second course you took after that was, so you graduated, your certificate was Restoration Ecologist in the Ecosystem Restoration Program. So I'm also curious to know what that means, Restoration Ecologist.
Yeah, so I know, because if I say just restorationist, I think people think that I'm like going to come and fix their like flooded basement or something.
Oh, that's what I was like. It's like restoration hardware. I'm like, okay, so how does that apply?
It's basically is, as you know, with our climate issues right now, many of the ecosystems are destroyed, damaged, or declining the biodiversity. So my job is basically to come in and repair anything damaged, or make a new one. So it could very well be an old farmland, and we could come in and turn that into a whole new ecosystem, a functioning ecosystem that would have been there prior to when they cleared it for that reason.
Right.
So, I mean, there's a lot involved in that as well, because it really does kind of depend on if you are restoring something, or if you're kind of remaking or putting something new.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of places, like the restoration project that we just recently did, was basically reforestation for the conservation area where all the ash borers had damaged large sections of the trees. So because they had damaged such a large section, it wasn't really a forested area anymore. It was bald, basically. So we just kind of fixed that. Of course, it takes a couple of years for trees to grow, so it still kind of looks cleared, but once those trees start to come in, it should be a nice, and biodiversity is huge, so you don't want to just go in and plant one species. You want to plant several different species and draw in more wildlife if you can.
Okay, I have a question for you on that, because people are now paying more attention, we hope, but a lot of people are, and I think there are a lot of questions around, always the topic comes back to, okay, but what can I do as one person? And so I know a lot of people like will plant wildflowers, or, just increase the space of their gardens, like to encourage more pollinators to come. And is there any advice you can give to somebody who maybe doesn't have a garden, or has a very small little property? Like, what is it that we can all do in any way to encourage, this restoration ourselves on our own little pieces of property? Even maybe we can do something on the, if we're living in an apartment building, is there something we can grow on our balconies, or, what can we do?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many things, and like you say, putting in the wildflowers is huge. Even vegetable gardens, right? You're being self-sustainable that way as well. I know it's hard in the winter time, in the northern hemisphere, obviously, um, but yeah, if you have an apartment, definitely plants out on your balcony. The more, the better, and not
Yeah.
just number wise, like species wise, right? And it's good to focus on native plants. It really is. I don't think people realize the importance of having native plants. I think that, a plant is a plant. But the thing is, though, is that we have species that are from our area that rely on plants that are from our area. So to plant, something that isn't going to keep a native species alive isn't as beneficial as planting species that will, for an
Yeah.
example, wild lupin, let's say, and the Karner blue butterfly. Well, without the wild lupin, there is no Karner blue butterfly. So it's just a matter of really, you go to a garden center and you can ask them where are your native plants, because I really want to plant just native plants. So they can usually help you with that,
Yeah.
or even just look it up online.
Right. I'm so happy that we're talking about this because I was thinking about that. I was thinking, when you go to plant something, I mean, well, this is an exact great example, but like if you put a cactus out on your balcony, that's not going to help our species, right? Like, so that was going to be my next question to you. When we're planting our flowers and all that, are there certain ones that are better? Like, are tulips the best thing for our species, or is it better, to have a garden full of milkweed? I don't know. Like milkweed would be way better, I know, but
Yeah, milkweed is like, so yeah, milkweed's huge. I mean, if you go around and look at just the milkweed that grows in the wild, you'll see a lot of little monarch caterpillars and stuff growing on them. So um, it is definitely huge. But tulips are good in the way that they're out early.
Mhm.
But I think the biggest thing is that people look at native plants as bad weeds. So like I keep my dandelions. I think the neighbors think, wow, that girl's crazy and super lazy. But no, like I do it for a purpose. And then when it is time to cut the lawn, I I pick the dandelions to use, because it's like, well, if they're gonna get mowed over anyways, let's make them useful, right?
How do you use them?
So you can, well, the greens, you can eat the greens, but the flowers, you can make jelly with them, wine,
Yeah.
tea, all kinds of stuff. They're very, very beneficial too, like super healthy. I've actually got a bunch still in my freezer because you got to pull the petals out, right? So it's time consuming, but I mean, they put them in the freezer, they last, and yeah, you can make all kinds of stuff with them, or you just eat them how they are.
I love this because I was actually having on Tuesdays, I have like a workout with a trainer, and he's really great. He's very holistic and all that stuff. So I was saying to him, I notice a lot of women my age are taking collagen now and for joint pain and different things. I said, what do you think about that? He goes, really, you should just like boil, I understand a lot of people are not eating meat right now, but he said if we use all the parts of the animal and you make a bone broth and you drink that, those are good nutrients going into your body. It's so going back to what you're saying, it's like we have these things around us to use, and then we're not using them. Like we're creating all this waste when we go and we buy like a packaged dandelion tea, or it's like just it's already on your lawn.
Yep, I know. It's so weird because
Yeah.
that's just it, right? And people will
Yeah.
remove it from their yard, and then, like you said, they go to the store and pay for it. Well, you just had it in your yard; it didn't cost
Yes.
you anything. But I think it's just, over the years things have become standard practice, and people just, it's hard to move away from something you've been doing for 20, 30 years. And then all of a sudden, oh no, I got to leave the dandelions. And I think that people have grown to dislike them, right? Because they see them as a nuisance. But I think it's a lot of just kind of changing that frame of mind and being willing to make a few changes that you're uncomfortable with, really. It's the same as like I always all fall long I post leave the leaves. I'm huge about don't rake your leaves. They're Mother Nature's blanket. They're there to protect all of the critters that hibernate. But again, I know that it drives people crazy to see their yard covered in leaves, but it's going to be covered in snow soon anyway, so it's not. Yeah.
So then with the leaf thing, I think that's fabulous. I have a small yard, but we used to have a big yard, and I hated raking leaves, and so now I feel that I should have never done that in the first place. But so come springtime when everything's melted, I guess you have like kind of like a mulch over everything, do you? From the leaves, or do they break down over the winter?
They break down quite quickly, and especially if you do get a good snowfall and the spring melt, and it accelerates quite quickly. And realistically, if it's on your lawn in the spring and it bothers you that much, throw it in your garden. It's good for your garden, but they break down really quickly, the leaves. So
that's great. Brie, I have to share with you, I remember like growing up in the 70s and 80s, and my parents both came from Germany, and they were always using every last bit of everything, right? There was very little waste. My dad he used to make wine, and he made dandelion wine once. It wasn't very delicious, but whatever.
The jelly's better.
Better. So, but we had a beautiful vegetable garden, and he had built this giant compost, and it was just like out of wood, like just a box. And it was huge. Like it was like 8 feet by 4 feet or something. And everything went in there. And I remember like my brother and I would have to take turns taking the compost out after my mom had, cooked and whatever. And I just remember like gagging. But my dad, like he would lay it all out and he'd turn it, and and we had tomatoes like this big. I swear to God, I've never seen tomatoes like that ever again that my dad grew in that garden. But I think it's so, I love what you're doing, because you're getting your community involved in all of this, and you're educating people on what they can do in their own backyard, and also how they can help the community that they live in. Because we kind of walk around and we don't really know what's going on, right? So like this company you're starting. So I would love to talk to you about this company that you're starting. It's with your friend, right? You guys are.
Yep. So we worked together in the past. She's a biologist, and she's mainly herpetology. So she studies reptiles and amphibians, loves turtles. So, the both of us always had all these projects that we wanted to do, and it was always a matter of finding somewhere to do it through. So to get the funding and whatever else. So we decided, well, if we're having a hard time finding a place to get funding, why can't we just start our own place? So that's how we've started. And we thought community gardens would be the best thing to start with. So we collaborated with a couple of other groups to kind of get this going. And we started some gardens at the back of the Salvation Army in town. They already had a space that they had used in previous years for community gardens, and it was fenced in already. So we thought, well, this works out well. And we really wanted to be able to take the food that we grew and donate it. So since it was already available there, it worked out very well for everybody, because it was at the food bank and we just harvested and brought it right to them. And it was nice but this year we really want to expand. We want to make it bigger. We wanted to see how it was going to go first.
Great.
Before we went, you don't want to go all out and then be like, oh no, this isn't working. But it did. It went really well. And so, yeah, we're hoping to get more gardens going there and throughout the town.
Wow. That's fantastic. So to get this really going and to expand on it, I guess, are you asking for people in your area to volunteer and to help to maintain these gardens?
So, yeah, and so we have asked people, and people are interested in helping out with them. The gardens that we had before, the gardens that we weren't maintaining ourselves, newcomers to Canada were asked if they wanted some gardens, because they're living in, apartments without the space to grow their own food. And we thought it was a good way for them to kind of get accustomed to each other and the community, and just a good way to interact. So we did start with that. They were to maintain their own gardens, but yeah, looking forward, we're hoping that the community gardens are really going to be a community thing where, you share the work, you share the benefits. It's not, it's not going to belong to anybody necessarily. The community, it's going to belong to the community. So it's, if you want to come in and you want to pull some weeds, please do. If you want to harvest some tomatoes, we really want it to be a community thing. So
I love that. And I know they're doing that in areas in Toronto, which you've probably seen before. Europe, it's huge. Like,
yes,
it's everywhere there. It's amazing. And a lot of people don't have houses. Like, there are more people who are living in like apartments, condominiums, in smaller living spaces in Europe. So, it's more popular, but it's just fantastic. I was in Germany a few years ago, and my aunt took me to see one of the bigger community gardens, and yeah, it's just so nice. And everybody comes out, and it's like, I just think how lovely, after work to go somewhere like that and be in nature and get your hands dirty and smell that soil, and it's good for everything. Yeah,
it is. Yeah, and it's good for the community too. And I think a lot of people don't realize the issue with food security is a huge issue. And I think that, like, if you're gonna have, so say, down your main street, you've got planters full of annuals, and every year you're planting petunias, let's say, right? Well, what's the difference? Like, if you put in a bunch of tomato plants instead, you're still filling it in with plants, you're still beautifying the area, but now it serves a purpose too, right? So, I don't know that we'll be able to get that far with it, but it would be nice to see kind of, edibles growing everywhere.
Yes, it'd be amazing.
Yeah,
that's funny you say edibles. It's like we all only think of one thing now when we hear edibles.
That's true.
Not what edibles means, people.
That is true.
It's so funny how we change the meanings of words over the years, right?
Yeah, I know. And sometimes you got to be careful, because you're like, oh,
that is not what I meant.
like that.
yeah, exactly. So your book, Brie, my God, this is so cool. Why the book? What inspired you to write a children's book?
It was kind of random, to be honest. I was actually at work, and I was out doing an inventory. So just, what's out right now. And then I thought, wow, like, people they don't know any of this stuff. Like, people haven't heard of these things. So as I was doing it, writing it down, and I turned it into a poem, and I actually sent it to my mom, and I was like, well, what do you think of this poem? And she was like, oh yeah, that's really good. You should turn that into a book. And I was like, turn it into a book. And then I thought about it, and I was like, well, I might as well try and see. And yeah, so
That's,
yeah.
you don't happen to have the poem in front of you before it turned into a book, do you?
You know what? I do. I just it's on my phone actually.
Okay,
Um,
cool. If you
it
can find
might
it.
be it might be actually because we obviously when we were editing it, we changed some of the
Yeah,
things around for it to flow a bit better. But
that's cool. Well, while you're looking, I'm just gonna let people know. So I'm gonna leave the information for everybody to check out Brie's book. But she also partnered with an illustrator who illustrated for her and depicted like exactly what she wanted, and she's gonna tell us that story too. But yeah, have you
yeah,
got the poem there?
I do. I do.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Okay, so it's yeah. So I don't know if again, like I said, it's not in the same order anymore. But yeah, it's golden crowned kinglets and duck springlets, brown creepers and spring peepers, chorus frogs singing in wet bogs, turkey vultures soar over maple syrup cultures, toad croaks at the morning cloaks, owl prowls and salamander ganders, spring beauties and little painted turtle cuties, emerging buds over swimming scuds, birds' nests and little pests, rain pours while a hawk soars, wind blows in a murder of crows, silly playful chipmunks and very smelly skunks, woodcocks in wet socks, chickadees and orchard bees. It's that time, hear me sing, it's spring, it's spring.
That's amazing.
Uh,
Oh my God, I love that.
that's the first time I've ever read it out loud to anybody. So,
I'm so honored. This is great. I love it because that was the beginning of something fabulous, which I mean, this is really cool. So your book right now, you self-publish, correct? So we can order it directly from the publishing company, or how does that?
it's yeah, so it's like the company itself is Friesen Press, so they have it available.
Okay.
It's still in the process of becoming available through all the other like Ingram Books and Amazon
Yeah.
Books and Google. So right now it's just available through their bookstore, the Friesen Press bookstore. But yeah, eventually it will be made more available.
Cool.
It just came out like not even a week, so
Right. So when you wrote the book, you were looking for an illustrator, and I'm curious to know why, because you were saying before that you were also an artist. Was that not something that you thought you could do both, or you just thought I want a different perspective, or why did you source out somebody to do the illustration for you?
So I'm very critical of my own artwork for one, and for two, I would have never gotten it done. So if I start like drawing or painting something and I decide there's something that I don't like about it, then that's it. That's the end of that's time to move on. So
Yeah.
I did think about illustrating it myself, and then I thought about, no,
Yeah.
because then it will never get illustrated and
Right.
so
That's amazing. Okay, so I just want to artist for a second about this disease we have.
right.
Because I am exactly the same. I used to paint. Now I'm a jewelry designer. I'm telling you, Brie, I've had my business for 20 years. And when I sit down and design something, automatically I go, that sucks. Nobody's going to want that. And I'm almost like I can't even look at it. But if I have somebody here assisting me and I say, okay, this is what I want. I want this placed here, blah, blah, blah. It's all in my head. So all they're doing is taking what's in my head and now creating. I'm like, oh God, I love that now. Like,
Yeah.
because their hands were on it and not mine. And it's so ridiculous and it's so irrational. And same goes for painting. Like I painted a pink flamingo with a palm tree and I'm like, God, my palm tree looks like a pine tree. That is never going to be, no one's ever going to see that. But the truth of the matter is people love your interpretation. They see something that you don't see. And it's almost like doing this together. Like you're sharing your story, and to you, it might just be, this is the story of my life, whatever. But to other people, it is fascinating. And the same goes for your art. So I'm going to challenge you to something a friend of mine challenged me to, and that is to once a month create a piece of art and finish it right to the end. And you're not allowed to judge it. You're not allowed to love it or hate it. Like, you got to get your mind out of all of that attachment crap and just create for the sense of creating. And it's so hard, but it is quite freeing. So anyway, I would love for you to join. I'll check up on you monthly. Make sure you're good.
I'll make them small.
Yeah, just making it bigger and bigger. So the illustrator that you found, what was that like? Like, was there like a jurying process where you had a few people on deck as to who was going to illustrate the book, or?
Yeah, I got a photographer friend of mine. I asked him because he went to school in the same, in the art and communications. So I asked him if he knew anybody. He gave me 3 names, and I did email them all. They all gave me their sites and everything. But with Victor, he also loves nature. So a lot of his art was already nature-based, and I just liked his style a lot too. I could really see it with children's books, right? Obviously, I have almost 6 now, so I see a lot of children's books because I'm constantly reading them to her, and the use of colors, I think, draws in children. And then when I emailed him and I asked him if he would mind kind of looking up the species that are mentioned and really, putting in the details, like what makes a spring peeper, the cross on their back or whatever it may be. So when he sent me his first image, I was like, oh yeah, no, this is definitely a perfect match. So it did. And he said the same thing. He said, this is his first book that he's illustrated, and that he thinks, this was definitely the perfect fit for him too, because he loves nature and wildlife. So
God, that's so great. And you're really educating kids on, species that maybe they don't even learn about in school. Like, these are, they're,
it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're species that I don't even think most adults know exist, right? I mean, people know about, there's a robin, it must be spring, right? Well, robins overwinter if there's food for them. So you know what I mean? Like, there's just so many things that it's just common knowledge, right? And I wanted to kind of be like, okay, no, these are things that people don't know exist. They don't know that, these are signs of spring. Mm-hmm. And I think that I do like to work with students. And so I think that it's important for kids to kind of get that information at a young age. I hadn't even heard of half those species until I was older. And that's me being interested in nature. So I don't know. I think they're just different things to look for that aren't always your same, Blue Jays, Cardinals.
Yes. Yeah. And it's so great. And I love that you're teaching kids about this too, because I think most kids at some point, they get one of those little kits where they can collect bugs and learn about them and do, kids are so into that. Like, it is fascinating to every child. So why not at the same time teach them about the value of those species? And, we're going to have a whole generation of dandelion growers and people not raking leaves because of you.
That's good. Because then all the little critters in that book will be, they'll appreciate it. They'll be alive. I don't think people, I don't think that they realize that, and even speaking of children, they like that stuff. It's almost like they're conditioned to stop liking a lot of this stuff. Like, ew, don't touch bugs, they're gross. Or, there's a bug in the house, kill it. Like, no, don't kill it, put it outside.
Yeah, or people freaking out because they're afraid to spy it, like somebody screaming that, a mom or a dad or whatever, and the kid's like, oh my God, then, you're perpetuating like a fear of.
Yeah, but I mean, they're good. We need them. I don't think people I think people don't realize that no matter what size something is, we're all connected, right? So yeah, it may be a gross, creepy bug, but it still serves a purpose to something
Yeah.
in the web, right?
Actually,
So
please tell me, what is the one bug I have a problem with that I want to give some love to? Are earwigs. I grew up with those earwigs because we live close to the water. Yeah. What is the purpose of the earwig?
so they can pinch you. I honestly, I don't know the purpose of an earwig, but they are good decomposers. They do help because they eat. Yeah, so they do serve a purpose when it comes to decomposition.
Yeah.
And realistically, anything that helps with decomposition, their frass, their poop, is good for the soil. So they do serve a purpose. But yeah, no, I don't disagree. They're not a nice bug.
Good with that, because they obviously helped grow those big tomatoes that I was enjoying so much, as a kid.
Yeah,
Good.
huge ones, potato bugs, the little pill bugs, the little roly polies.
Yeah, I love
they are. Yeah, they're really great bugs for composting. So.
Oh, that's amazing. So, Brie, not to end it on a negative note, but I do want to sort of like make people aware of things that they might not be aware of from all the research that you've done and, water testing and everything. Is there one thing where you're like, we got a big problem here? Is there one specific thing where you're like, if I could put an urgent attention on anything, can you pick one or a couple?
No. There, if I could say, like, for people to make, to try to make a bigger effort, waste is huge. Plastic waste especially, which I know it's hard because everything's made out of plastic nowadays.
Yeah.
But just to make a conscious effort, and of course, obviously recycle wherever you can. Now, recycling isn't all that it's cut out to be. Most of it doesn't end up getting recycled, and the recycling process itself isn't necessarily great for the environment either. But so, if you can avoid waste as much as possible, like you go, say, buy your produce, right? You don't need to use those produce bags. I use laundry bags. Sobeys has other little produce bags. You can use paper bags, even like the little sandwich paper bags. They'll break down. And composting too is huge. You put stuff in the garbage and it ends up in the landfill. It will never break down. It will rot. It will turn into methane gas. If it doesn't have the proper oxygen flow, it's not going to break down. And then our agricultural practices, they're just, I mean, I know they've been doing it this way for a long time, and it's a process, but it's killing our soil, it's killing our forests, and they got to come up with something better for sure. And it's bad for the water too. I mean, because I study the drains and stuff, you see phosphates and eutrophication and the waste, animal waste, it's combined, and you think, like, I don't think people realize, like, you are drinking that water. It comes from the drains, it goes into the next creek, it goes down into the lake, and your water is coming out of that lake, and we're drinking it, which is kind of gross. But,
wow. Well, it's so good to be aware of this. And I was talking actually on the show, and I'll connect you with her. She's another writer, and she's an environmentalist. And, she was just saying, one of the best things to do too is like to educate yourself and to go to your, members of parliament and find out what's going on and have a voice in those places, because they're the ones who are going to make the big changes, right? Like what you're saying, like changing how the whole agricultural process in Canada is not something you or I can do, but if we bring it forward, we just keep addressing it and educating ourselves, then, maybe that's something that we can.
Oh yeah, for sure. Policymakers are, in the end, you don't want to put blame on people, but in the end, that's what it does. fall back on, is that like we can make all the changes that we want personally, but yeah, I mean, there's a whole system that needs to be changed, and you can't change a whole system without the policymakers, right? So that's definitely a big thing. And to be honest, it's hard to do that. I mean, even just trying to get the community gardens going in the town, it's been a process, writing and calling and emailing and different groups going to council meetings, but it's working. So
good.
You just gotta keep going.
Yeah, you gotta keep it going. I know it's true. Like I interviewed the mayor of Burlington, and her whole thing, I mean, a lot of mayors do this, but it's like she puts everything out on the table. It's all out there. Social media, it's in her Instagram, it's in her Facebook. This is what we're discussing. If anybody wants to contribute, you're invited. She's very much about the people making the decisions. But if the people don't come forward, then we just need to be in there. Like, and that's exactly what you're doing. That's so awesome. Like you have this vision, which is huge, and it's going to make such a positive impact on your town. And you're learning about, okay, we got red tape here, so we got to work around this. This is what we have to do. Like you're relentless. You're doing it. You're working through that process, and you're learning along the way. And it's great that we need more Bries in the world doing this.
Well, there's a mini version of me. She's not far off. Her name is Meadow.
Your daughter's name's Meadow?
Yeah, her name is Meadow, and she's very much like me. So
yeah, perfect.
Yeah, so
well, we were talking before about the YouTube platform, and sort of people like really making it for themselves on YouTube with whatever they're doing. You and your daughter, I think, could just have your own, you could start a channel of mother-daughter talk about the environment and educating kids on these species. That could be a whole series.
Yeah, well, she wants her own YouTube channel. She loves to forage too. So, I mean, she could have her own show just about her eating stuff in the forest. So
that's great.
She loves it. So, I mean, she'd keep every day, okay, so can I have a channel now? And I'm like, okay. Know anything about
that's
YouTube
so
kids
cool.
channels, but
yeah. Oh, that's great. So when she goes into the forest and grabs some snacks, what is she going for? Is she making salads and stuff, like with sorrel and
she does. She likes all that. Right now she's got me, when we go on our hike, she's got me stabbing holes in all the maple trees so she can lick the maple water. But yeah, she likes the berries and nuts, like shagbark hickory, one of her favorites. They're sweet. Just anything that's edible. There's a lot of wild garlic around here, which she'll eat even that. Anything. Yep, wood sorrel.
What about I'm just like, when I grew up, we have a family cottage up north, and my mom was really into like picking I think we made salad now with the milkweed shoots.
Okay.
I remember, we picked milkweed. Elderberries were big. My mom would dip the elderberry, like the berries, into pancake mix, and then like make a pancake with all those little berries in it. What else was there? Was so many, and even the elder flower, like
elder flower,
sumac.
Yeah, the sumac berries. Yeah, the sumac lemonade.
Yeah.
Meadow likes rose hips too. Rose hips she likes a lot. As long as you take the fuzzy stuff out of the middle of it. Yeah.
Oh, this is so great.
Yeah.
No,
and it's all very medicinal. Like they all serve a purpose. They're not just. Hey, I don't like a lot of the stuff. Meadow will eat anything. She likes clovers and. No. I think I don't even know that she necessarily likes the taste of it all as much as she likes the fact that she can go out and eat everything around her. So,
and it's really cool, because even what we were talking about at the beginning of the interview with you picking up and going to BC and having that adventure, she's experiencing that as a little girl, like with the food being growing around her, like that whole survival thing. It's like, yeah, I'm fine. Like, that's so good for independence. Like, I remember doing that up at the cottage, going for a walk in the forest, and yeah, I'm going to eat a little piece of this, and like I knew about the berries and the sorrel and all that stuff. You're raising a really independent young person there.
Yeah, she is definitely independent. Yeah, I mean, her and I like to go on different adventures. I just took her on her first little backpacking trip, actually. We went and stayed in a little hobbit house out in the middle of the woods, and I was like, oh, I don't know if she's too young for this, but she amazed me. Like, she had her little backpack on, and I mean, we had to walk up slopes that were like,
Yeah.
she did it. When we first got there and I saw the hike, I was like, uh-oh. And nope, she's amazing. She's definitely a little nature girl.
Oh, I love that. It's so amazing. Well, we're going to look forward to seeing her on YouTube, and I want to see you on YouTube as well, because you have a gift to educate all of us, on this stuff, and how we can help with the restoration as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. Planting anything is good, but like I said, always try to get native and ask at your garden center if they know for sure.
Yeah, great advice. Brie, thank you so much for all your time today. You've been absolutely amazing. You have some comments here that I just wanted to read you. So Wendy Anderson Mawson says, this information is so important. Thank you for educating us. And Dee Andrews says, great interview, Brie. So
thank you.
So thank you so much, and I hope everybody grabs your book. You don't have to be a kid to read that book, because we can all learn from it. Right?
Yeah, and the illustrations, it kind of works as an ID book.
Yeah, exactly. I'm gonna get it and take it up north with me.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
You can see spring peepers or brown creepers.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much. I'm going to put you in the virtual back room, of course, and and I'll see you in just a minute. Thanks, Brie.
Thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you guys so much for watching today. What a wonderful interview. I learned so much. That was amazing. So I hope you all pick up Brie's book. I will leave the link in the comments below. If you're watching this on YouTube, be sure to subscribe to our channel and get weekly updates from amazing women doing amazing things. And make sure you check out our sponsor, Brenda Badome, at brendabadome.com. Use the coupon code GET2KNOW-HER for 22% off of your order. And head on over to glamjewels.com to get yourself the coordinating accessories. Thank you so much for being here today. Keep on showing the world your sparkle, and we will see you back here next week. Bye for now.